Hello friends, welcome to this video. This is Ojay with the Existentialist. The themes we cover in this channel are mental health, existential inquiry, and self-realization. So if these topics matter to you, please subscribe to this channel. Today we're going to talk about the fear of failure. In particular, we will be talking about what it is, the different forms it takes, where it really comes from, the questions we can ask ourselves for self-reflection, and some little tips on how we can cope with it. So what is the fear of failure? I'm sure it's something that we're all familiar with to some extent. We've all gone through it in our lives. After all, society requires a high level of efficiency, a high level of success in everything we do, and so it's hardwired in us the need to perform, and as a result there can be anxieties about not being able to make it or not being able to succeed. And sometimes it is this kind of primal fear that drives us into success and makes us work harder. But I'm talking about that kind of fear that really cripples us and that stops us from really doing our best. Another name for it might be fear of rejection. We are afraid of being rejected. We're afraid of disappointment. Examples of that could, of course, be in preparing for exams, especially really tough competitive exams where we're competing against so many other people and the success rate tends to be so low and is a cause of anxiety for so many people. It could be asking somebody out on a date or proposing for marriage. It could be before an important interview, something that really matters and we have a lot hanging on it, or an important presentation. In my case, fear of failure is something that I have felt a lot in my life, and that's why I'm putting this video out, because I could not find anything else on YouTube or any articles about where it really comes from, and so that's what I want to cover. And my fear of failure comes around putting myself out there, for example, in these videos, in my coaching practice, and it's something that even now I'm learning to cope with and to understand better. What are the different forms that fear of failure takes? It can take the form of procrastination, something you might be familiar with. I think a lot of us have done at different points. Feelings of perfectionism. If I cannot do it perfectly, then I just won't do it. And sometimes we may not end up showing up for important things like appointments or dates or interviews. I've done that. Feeling of anxiety and helplessness, even something like laziness, putting something off, kind of just, chilling with Netflix, binge watching, or just scrolling through your social media. People might say that you're being lazy. You might call yourself lazy, but actually there is a hidden fear that's going on inside, which is why you might be acting that way. Or it could take the form of a creative block. For a writer who wants to write an article or a book and they can't seem to get the ideas, there might be a hidden fear there of not succeeding. And there is also this thing known as fear of success. Let's say we have faced success in our life and we do have a successful reputation, and now there is this fear of losing this reputation, and of when we get successful we get scared because now we have this big image to look up to, and that can be a cause of anxiety as well. Let's now look at where this is really coming from. The hidden side, the shadow side that I really like to explore and get to the bottom of. Ultimately, it is a pressure, some expectations that we're meant to deliver a certain thing, that we're meant to succeed in a certain way, And those can come, as we said before, from external, from society, but also from ourselves, from the standards we set for ourselves. And sometimes we can have unrealistic standards or be overly critical of little things that we fall short on. Ultimately, the fear of failure equates to the need for success. Could this need for success be in order to prove our worth, our worthiness, and failure being equated with worthlessness? This is something that we may want to explore in more detail. Are we seeking this validation from others, from ourselves, just to feel that we are worthy of having this position in this company, or having this reputation, or being worthy of being seen as good in somebody's eyes? And that's why success matters so much to us, and it's time to question where we are putting our self-worth at. There is an uncertain outcome, and there is a sense of uncertainty that makes us anxious, which makes the fear of failure so much more palpable, so much more real. And that's partly because we are always needing uncertainty in our life, and we have this need for control. We want to be on top of everything, and when we're not sure of the outcome of something, it scares us. It also depends on how much value and meaning we attach to that particular thing. And that might be a clue as to what really matters to us, and a tool to help us understand more about ourselves and the things that mean the most to us. And ultimately, it's related to our solar plexus chakra. So, as you may know, we have 7 chakras, and it's something that I have felt intensely in my solar plexus chakra, which is right above the navel in the stomach area. So if you felt like a clench in your stomach, it might be related to the fear of failure. Now, I always like to ask myself questions to reflect more, and it's helped me along the years, and I thought I would like to have a questions for self-reflection section over here as well. So I've posed a few questions that maybe you want to ask yourself. There is a need to protect and preserve a certain image of ourselves, of being successful, of being seen as good. Who is this image in front of? What are we trying to protect? From whom are we trying to protect it? And if it's failure in whose eyes? And let's take this a little bit further. What would happen if I fail? What would happen if I can't get through this exam? Or let's take my example. What if I ask this girl out and she says no? What would it mean to me? Take it all the way until the end. That might mean that maybe I'm not worthy of being seen as good in her eyes. Maybe that might mean to me that I'm not attractive enough or good enough. And what might that mean? That might mean that I am doomed to be lonely and to be by myself. And then you start to realize that what really matters to you is to have this companionship, and maybe the thing that's really bothering you is loneliness and not the fear of failure. So I invite you to delve deeper into asking yourself questions. What happens if I fail, and what happens if that happens, and so on. And also ask yourself, why does this matter to me so much? Why does this success mean the world to me? And sometimes having a clear meaning, not sometimes, every time, having a clear meaning actually helps us be more certain of why we're doing what we're doing and to do our best in it. To close, I'm just going to outline a few things we can do to cope better in the long term with the fear of failure. But I just want to say that this video is not a how-to guide, it's not a quick fix, and I'm no guru telling you what to do. If anybody does, then I recommend you stay away from that, because only you know how to deal with your own situations and be your own guide. Firstly, I would like to tell you not to shame yourself for feeling this, because we all feel this fear, and sometimes we put ourselves down, and sometimes we fear this fear of failure, and it can get into a cycle, and that can be quite crippling. So I hope you can accept that side of you when you feel it, and practice a little bit of self-love. And another term that I like is self-validation. It was told to me by a friend, and it makes a lot of sense. This validation that we're seeking from others through our success and through living up to those expectations, we can try to validate ourselves and remind ourselves the value of who we are, independent of what we achieve and whether we make it or not. We are worthy for being alive, for being here. It is not a quick fix, but it is a dissolving that happens through awareness, through asking ourselves questions, rather than being stuck in the head and looking at it from a first person's perspective, to turn around and to look at ourselves and to see what's really happening and where this is coming from and what that might be telling us about ourselves. And also I want to say, surrender to this uncertainty with joy. There is a sense of nervousness that comes with not knowing what's going to happen, and it's actually a very intense, alive feeling. And once we get past those intense negative emotions, there lies a lot of aliveness behind it. And I'm just going to close with something that I wrote in my diary not that long ago. It doesn't really go away. No matter how good you get, you will always feel a nervous tingle just before putting yourself out there, just before something important is about to start. Whether it's a performance, an interview, or a date, it is totally healthy and actually a good thing. Enjoy the burst of energy, feel the awareness, ride the wave of excitement. I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed making it and putting it together through all of the years of experience. And if you did, please consider subscribing to the channel and also sharing this with your friends. Thank you so much for being here. I wish you well.